in the heart of the African savanna, nestled between rolling hills and dense ancient forests, lay the kingdom of Umandi. The land was rich and fertile, the people industrious and proud. Their king, Khalid the Great, was known far and wide for his wisdom and strength, ruling with a firm but fair hand. But beneath the serene surface of Umandi, a storm was brewing, one that would challenge the very foundations of the kingdom. The village of Korom was buzzing with activity. Women pounded millet, children chased chickens, and men sharpened their spears. Amidst this bustling scene, an old woman named Folayan sat by a fire, her eyes distant and her fingers deftly weaving intricate patterns into a mat. Folayan was the village seer, respected and feared for her visions and knowledge of the old ways. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the savannah, Folayan felt a chill run down her spine. She looked up to see a great owl perched on the roof of her hut, its eyes glowing like embers in the gathering dusk. In Umandi, the owl was a harbinger of doom, and its appearance could only mean one thing: a great calamity was about to befall the kingdom. Folayan closed her eyes and allowed herself to be drawn into a trance. She saw visions of bloodshed, betrayal, and the fall of the mighty King Khalid. When she came to, her heart was heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. She knew she had to warn the king, but she also knew that her warning might not be heeded. The next day, Folayan made her way to the royal palace. The journey was long and her old bones ached, but she pressed on, driven by a sense of urgency. When she arrived at the palace gates, the guards, recognizing her, let her through without question. She was escorted to the throne room, where King Khalid sat surrounded by his advisors. The king was a towering figure, his presence commanding and his gaze intense. He listened as Folayan recounted her vision, his expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, there was a heavy silence in the room. "Folayan," the king said finally, his voice a low rumble, "you have served this kingdom well with your wisdom, but these are troubling times, and your vision speaks of treachery within our midst. Tell me, who among us would dare to betray their king?" Folayan shook her head. "My lord, the vision was unclear on the identity of the traitor. But beware, for the danger is close and the price of ignorance is steep." King Khalid nodded, deep in thought. "We will increase our vigilance," he said. "Thank you, Folayan. You may go." As Folayan left the palace, she could not shake the feeling that her warning had only scratched the surface of the danger that lay ahead. Unbeknownst to King Khalid, a conspiracy was indeed brewing within the palace walls. Among his advisors was a man named Bomani, a cunning and ambitious noble with dreams of power. He had long resented Khalid's rule, believing that he could lead the kingdom to greater glory. Bomani had secretly aligned himself with a group of disgruntled nobles and warriors, each with their own grievances against the king. They met in shadowy corners and whispered their plans in the dead of night, plotting to overthrow Khalid and seize the throne. One of Bomani's most trusted allies was a warrior named Anuli. She was as fierce as she was beautiful, with eyes that could pierce through a man's soul and a mind sharp as a blade. Anuli had once been a loyal servant of the king, but a personal tragedy had turned her heart to stone. She blamed Khalid for her loss and had sworn to see him fall. "Patience, my friends," Bomani would say during their secret meetings. "The time is not yet ripe. We must wait for the right moment when the king is most vulnerable. Then we will strike and Umandi will be ours." the annual festival of the harvest moon, was a time of great celebration in Umandi. It was a time when the people gave thanks for the bountiful harvest, with feasting, dancing, and rituals that honored the spirits of the land. King Khalid declared a week of festivities, inviting all his subjects to the capital to partake in the celebrations. The palace was adorned with colorful banners, and the air was filled with the sounds of drums and laughter. Folayan, though wary, decided to join the festivities. She hoped that the joyous occasion might lift the heavy feeling that had settled over her heart since her vision. But even as she danced and sang with her fellow villagers, she could not shake the sense of impending doom. On the third night of the festival, as the full moon rose high in the sky, Folayan felt a sudden coldness grip her. She looked up to see the great owl once again, perched on a nearby tree. This time, its eyes were fixed on the palace, and Folayan knew that the moment of reckoning was at hand. That night, while the festivities continued, Bomani and his co-conspirators made their move. They had bribed several palace guards and managed to infiltrate the royal chambers. Bomani, with Anuli by his side, led the way, his heart pounding with anticipation. They found King Khalid alone in his study, poring over a map of the kingdom. He looked up in surprise as Bomani and his men burst in, but before he could react, Anuli lunged forward and struck him with a poisoned dagger. The king gasped, clutching his side, his eyes wide with shock. "Bomani, why?" he managed to say, his voice filled with pain and betrayal. Bomani stepped forward, a cold smile on his lips. "You have ruled long enough, Khalid. It is time for a new era, one where I lead Umandi to greatness." As Khalid fell to the ground, the last thing he saw was Anuli's face, twisted with hatred. The room began to blur, and darkness closed in around him. News of the king's assassination spread like wildfire through the kingdom. The people were stunned, their hearts heavy with grief and fear. Bomani quickly seized control, declaring himself the new king and promising a brighter future for Umandi. But not everyone was willing to accept Bomani's rule. Loyalists to King Khalid, including his son Prince Gamba, who had been away on a diplomatic mission, vowed to avenge the fallen king and restore justice to the land. Folayan, devastated by the events, retreated to her hut, where she wept for the king and for the kingdom that had lost its way. But as she sat there, mourning, she felt a strange presence. The great owl had returned, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. "Folayan," a voice echoed in her mind, "the time has come for you to act. The kingdom needs you. Seek out Prince Gamba and guide him. The fate of Umandi rests in your hands." With renewed determination, Folayan set out to find Prince Gamba. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but she also knew that she could not stand by and watch her beloved kingdom fall into darkness. Prince Gamba had returned to a kingdom in chaos. The palace was under Bomani's control, and loyalists to his father were being hunted down and imprisoned. Gamba knew that he could not confront Bomani head-on. He needed allies and a plan. As he wandered through the countryside disguised as a commoner, he heard whispers of a resistance forming. He followed these whispers to a hidden camp deep within the forest, where he found a group of warriors and nobles who had remained loyal to his father. Among them was Folayan, who had been instrumental in rallying the resistance. When Gamba saw her, he felt a glimmer of hope. "Folayan," he said, "you have done more for my family and this kingdom than I can ever repay, but we need a plan. Bomani is too powerful, and we are too few." Folayan nodded. "We cannot defeat Bomani through brute force alone. We must use wisdom and strategy. There is a legend, Prince Gamba, of an ancient artifact that holds great power. It is said to be hidden in the mountains to the north. If we can find it, we may have a chance to reclaim the throne." Intrigued and desperate, Gamba agreed to seek out the artifact. He gathered a small group of trusted allies, including Folayan and a skilled tracker named Chipo, and set out on the perilous journey. The journey to the mountains was arduous and filled with dangers. The group faced treacherous terrain, wild animals, and harsh weather. But they pressed on, driven by their mission and the hope of restoring justice to Umandi. As they climbed higher into the mountains, Folayan shared stories and songs from the old days, reminding them of the rich history and culture of their people. Her tales were a source of strength and inspiration, keeping their spirits high even in the face of adversity. One night, as they camped under the stars, Folayan told the legend of the artifact they sought. "It is called the Heart of the Savannah," she said, her voice low and reverent. "A gem of immense power, said to be blessed by the spirits of the land. Whoever possesses it will have the strength and wisdom of the ancestors." Chipo, the tracker, listened intently. "But Folayan, if this artifact is so powerful, why has no one sought it before?" "Many have tried," Folayan replied. "But the journey is fraught with peril, and the heart of the savannah will only reveal itself to those who are pure of heart and intent." Gamba clenched his fists, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we must prove ourselves worthy, for my father and for Umandi." As they neared the location described in the legend, the group encountered a series of trials designed to test their resolve and character. The first trial was a maze of thorns, where they had to find their way without succumbing to fear or frustration. With Folayan's guidance and Chipo's keen senses, they navigated the maze successfully. The second trial was a river of fire, which required them to confront their deepest fears and insecurities. Each member of the group faced their own personal demons, but with mutual support and encouragement, they crossed the fiery river unscathed. The final trial was a cave of shadows, where illusions and whispers sought to sow doubt and discord among them. It was here that Gamba's leadership truly shone, as he reminded his companions of their shared purpose and the strength they drew from their unity. At last, they reached the heart of the mountain, where a crystal-clear lake shimmered in the moonlight. In the center of the lake, on a pedestal of stone, lay the heart of the savannah. Its glow was mesmerizing, and as Gamba approached, he felt a surge of energy and clarity. He reached out and took the gem, feeling its power coursing through him. In that moment, he knew that they had the means to challenge Bomani and restore peace to Umandi. Armed with the heart of the savannah, Gamba and his companions made their way back to the kingdom. Word of their quest and success had spread, and more people joined their cause, swelling the ranks of the resistance. Bomani, growing increasingly paranoid and desperate, had fortified the palace, but he could not quell the growing unrest among the people. They yearned for justice and the return of the rightful king. The final confrontation took place at the gates of the palace. Gamba, with the heart of the savannah glowing in his hand, led the charge. The power of the artifact bolstered their strength and resolve, and they fought with the fury of those who had everything to lose. Bomani, seeing the tide turning against him, tried to flee, but Anuli, driven by her own thirst for revenge, confronted him. "You promised me vengeance," she hissed, her eyes burning with rage. "But all you've brought is ruin." In the chaos that followed, Bomani was captured and brought before Gamba. The prince looked down at the man who had betrayed his father and caused so much suffering. "Bomani, you will face justice for your crimes, but Umandi will not be ruled by hatred and vengeance. We will rebuild together." With Bomani imprisoned and order restored, Prince Gamba was crowned as the new king of Umandi. The people celebrated, their hearts filled with hope and renewed faith in their future. Folayan, though weary from the long journey, stood by Gamba's side as an advisor and guardian of the old ways. She had seen the kingdom through its darkest days and now looked forward to a brighter future. Under Gamba's rule, Umandi flourished. He worked tirelessly to heal the wounds of the past, promoting unity and justice. The heart of the savannah, kept in a place of honor, served as a reminder of the trials they had overcome and the strength they had found within themselves. Folayan returned to her village, where she continued to share her wisdom and stories with the younger generation. She knew that the spirit of Umandi was strong, and as long as they remembered their roots and honored their ancestors, the kingdom would thrive. And so, the tale of Folayan and the fallen king became a legend in Umandi, a story of courage, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their land. The story of Folayan and the fallen king teaches us the power of resilience, unity, and the importance of justice. It shows that even in the face of great adversity and betrayal, individuals can rise to the occasion and work together to overcome challenges. Folayan's wisdom and Prince Gamba's determination demonstrate that true leadership requires both strength and compassion. The trials they faced highlight the value of courage and the necessity of facing one's fears to achieve a greater good. Furthermore, the story underscores the significance of staying connected to cultural roots and honoring traditions, as these provide the foundation and strength for a community to rebuild and thrive. Ultimately, the tale reminds us that integrity, loyalty, and a shared vision for the future are crucial in creating a just and prosperous society.